All right, Nick. Got a flair for the dramatic, my man. All right, Nick. 2-1. Turn 2-2, unfortunately, by some punk that's young and up and coming for the Brewers, but that's all right. We got some young and up and coming guys that I hope strike back. How you feeling? I'm feeling pretty nervous, which I actually like. This is fun.
Yeah, I assume the Brewers are going Devin Williams here, right?
Yeah, you got to give yourself a chance to walk it off in the bottom. That seems to be what makes the most sense. The only which the Brewers have so many good arms that you could argue it both ways, but the only caveat would be is saving your best arm for the inning in which they have a runner that starts at second base automatically but that's all for naught if you give up a run here and then you have to get a run against Diaz. So I don't know. I assume they already announced that they brought in. I've not come back from break yet. I've not come back from break yet.
Oh wow, man!
Just came back from break.
All right, I'll pause another second here and see if we can.
Yeah, I'm half. I mean, it's so ridiculous that it's Fubo, which is whatever, cable, Bally. It's crazy to me that it's so far behind that I genuinely think that like the MLB updates almost beat me to when I'm watching it live. It's like a couple. I
just see the 0 allowed in last 7 appearances. Have you seen that yet?
All right, I've seen Devin Williams' stats, and then now I just seen that. Just seen the 0 runs.
I'll do another pause.
Yeah, we're like 4 seconds behind. It's absurd.
Not gonna look at the
just
chat
rubs his mouth, rubs his neck. A telltale sign that he's super nervous.
All right,
I have to square myself up here, all over the place.
He's set.
He's set. You're
gonna pitch.
You're a pitch.
Swinging a foul.
Yeah,
let me know when it's
the
foul.
pitch. Swinging a foul. Thank you for the likes. The 24 people that are already in here, they know the deal. We need the likes, and we need them fast. Jake Fraley, it's on Jake Fraley close up, and then it goes away to Williams, and then Williams comes set. The pitch.
Yep, we're right on.
Smoked. And there's a guy there.
Dude, they don't miss anything. I mean, that wasn't a really hard catch.
Right. No, you're right.
These dudes. Oh. Nope. I'm not in mid-season form here.
Could really go for a Spencer Steer double right here, if you know what I mean.
We're really glass half full here, so I it's pretty obvious why David Bell didn't use any of his best relievers, because he, wasn't going to use them in a tie game. Then when you're still going to face Williams, but you're able to throw up even if you don't score here, you throw up a scoreless in the.
They got good arms though, Nick.
The bottom of the 9th, and you're feeling pretty good.
Dude, Contreras frames everything. It pisses me off. If I was the umpire in the first inning, I'd have told him to cut the shit out. Cut the shit out, man. The ball that ball's 7 inches outside. If you're gonna frame that, you're not getting a call the rest of the night. Cut that shit out. And he frames every pitch.
Yeah, you're getting embarrassed. I mean, you're gonna have that umpire scorecard blasted all over the place tomorrow morning.
Dude, it's gonna be atrocious. The scorecard's gonna be atrocious. I don't even think the scorecard's gonna be correct. Because I don't know how they do the scorecard, but the fact of the matter is there's been a couple instances that the very next result after the horrible decision has resulted in a run. It should be 2+ runs.
It is no context whatsoever to what actually happens afterwards. It's
right,
just
and that's what's
how
garbage.
How many pitches, over the course of a normalized environment would create so many runs.
Yeah, it's the last series against the Brewers, Chris. Good or bad? I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, Chris. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. It might be a great thing. Hell, if we get out of Milwaukee just down one game, then we might be in a situation where we win the whole thing. 1.5, whatever it would be. We still can't figure that out. That's outside by a mile, dude. He's
he
framing
wanted to call that.
Yeah, they're like framing those pitches, and the crowd's getting upset. That ball is off the plate by 4 inches, man. Oh, man. Mouse Cop, if that's true, I'm going to have to put you away. Mouse Cop, I hate to do it.
Come on.
I hate to do that, Mouse. I got to put you away, brother. I need likes, though. You are a leader for likes. I can't get on you too hard, Mouse. My gosh. We got Ray out there on the mound, and he's throwing. Oh, my golly. Am I allowed to say something bad about Joey and see if he does something in my face? Because he's got to be better, man.
Well, he's big spot.
He's getting beat. He's getting beat on hard fastballs, like not even.
Well, you didn't pinch hit, so he could be in the spot right here. I mean, I mean, it's not really fair against Devin Williams, but that's why he didn't pinch hit.
Okay.
And I think it was a mistake, regardless what happens here. But I don't think it's going to be, regardless.
Listen, I hope he proves me wrong, but he just does not. I mean, it is what it is, man. Wanted to get hate mail for what we've said. I'll take the brunt of it. I said it. I mean, he's old. He's shown flashes of brilliance.
I still don't really have an issue with him facing right-handed pitching. I don't know why you didn't pinch it for him.
Come on, Joey. Well, the lights went out in Milwaukee. They're going to have to delay the game. Damn it.
Yeah.
All right, Diaz.
We're going to Diaz?
That's what it looked like.
Where are we at in their lineup? Bottom of the lineup, bottom 2. Joey Weimer, who's somehow Babe Ruth against us. Dude hadn't even
I don't mind throwing Diaz, man. I mean, when was the last time?
We
maybe
gotta
I'm
get
gonna make a
6
fool of myself
to win this game.
I understand that, but you still got some. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but you got guys, and there's a chance though, Nick, that you score a couple runs, and I know that's hypothetical, very, 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 very hypothetical. This inning, you can't give up one single run. The next inning, there's a chance where you're up by 5. And I know that's over the top, but that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. You can be up by 2 or 3 or 4 runs here. Probably not going to be, but if I were to defend David Bell, that's what I would say. You got to get 6 outs regardless. Didn't you always say I mean, I know that I'm joking a little bit here.
They're going Diaz.
But didn't you always say that the outs are outs, Nick? I mean, listen, they all count the same to a certain extent. I know you've backed off of that take now as you've gotten older, but in general, if Lucas Sims gets 3 outs this inning or Lucas Sims gets 3 outs the next inning, I don't know. I mean, Lucas Sims has closed games out before too, so that is if Lucas Sims is available. I mean, he just threw the other day, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to use Diaz in a tie game on the road, I don't know, maybe you should have been more aggressive with the bullpen earlier. But
they've only given up 2 runs, Nick. They've only given up 2 runs. At some point, the offense has to score some damn runs. We can't be playing the Milwaukee Brewers and act as if this team has some, like I said, it's every guy that goes out there, Cy Young or Andy Johnson. It's getting really tiring. Freaking Reyes looking like Kurt Schilling. All right, Nick, let's just get 3 outs and move on.
Yeah, I mean, and look, they used their better pitchers than the Reds did so far. So
I was getting ready to say this guy is going to bunt. Diaz is such a wild card. He reminds me of Chapman a little bit so much. Like, he can be absolutely all over the place and then just strike 3 guys out in the blink of an eye. We've flirted with or played with fire all night too, Nick. Like, it feels like the Brewers could have like 7 runs.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like the Reds could too, though. I mean, Brewers robbed a home run, and I mean,
that's about it. And Steer stranded a guy at second.
There was Benson should have walked right before Ellie De La Cruz's home run. I mean, like
4 straight. Geez. That's awesome.
That guy's hitting like
it's disgusting, dude.
630 OPS. I mean, man.
Also, I really don't want to hear about how the guy isn't used to coming, like he doesn't throw well in these situations. Blah 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 blah. I'm not in that excuse game right now. I don't want to hear it. You come in to pitch, your job's to throw strikes, get guys out.
Not Jesse Winker.
Well, listen, if Jesse Winker beats us, I'll tip my cap to the Brewers. And honestly, it is what it is. Like, you score 2 runs in a baseball game through 9 innings, you ain't supposed to win. So, I would love to see Jesse Winker hit a double play though, right here. That'd be nice. What's up with us wasting these throws over to first base too? And we need to slow our roll down with that. Feels like we throw over there super quick, and it's not even a close play. Shit. He's going to third easy. No.
Well,
what did he do? He not read it off the bat?
Well, he must have thought he had a chance to catch it.
Yeah, it's 100% what happened. That ball's hit hard, too. That's a ball right there, man. Our defensive shifts have cost us not a ton tonight, but just a little bit. Again, it's part of it. They're bunting here.
Yelich is up, isn't he? He's the best hitter.
Yeah, is he up?
Yeah, it was an 8-hole hitter.
I love that. Then I love that. I hope he's hit. I hope they're not bunting. I think, in my opinion, I'd bunt. Maybe not with Yelich, but if there was anybody but him, I'd be bunting. All right, give me a double play. All right, Nick. Double play. Are you shitting me? We didn't even get an out. Didn't even get an out, Nick. Didn't even get an out. Let's do a show.
High drive, left center field, racing back to the wall, Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! Reds win! Win! Under the right field, Junior, the first run ever, with 4.
All right, Nick. Reds get walked off in the bottom of the ninth, 3-2. Brewers. Reds now are 2-9 against these guys, I think.
Sounds right.
There's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack. Obviously, Twitter was going wild earlier today about Jonathan India. We'll get into that. We'll obviously talk about this game that's disappointing to say the least, but it's just disappointing. I don't know how else to say it. It's one of those things where I can't continue to say the Brewers aren't good, and what I mean by that is like I don't think they're better than us. But if they're going to beat us if we're 2-9 against them, then I'm just going to have to stop saying it because at some point you look like an idiot. I still don't believe it, but I guess the Brewers just going to keep proving me wrong, Nick. I don't know how you feel. Obviously, you're usually the optimistic type, so I know that you're going to have hopefully a positive spin zone here. I'm not dead, but damn it, I feel pretty sad right now, for being completely honest.
Yeah, it's a tough loss. I mean, you had that huge moment from Elly De La Cruz earlier in the game. You had some spots where you hoped you could have added on a couple more runs. Got a really good start from Graham Ashcraft overall. Reds just can't score against these guys. Can't score more than outside of a couple innings here and there. It's tough sledding, and tomorrow it's even tougher.
The most frustrating part with this is that you get what you needed out of Graham Ashcraft. You got exactly what you needed out of Graham Ashcraft. And I don't know what it is when we walk into Milwaukee and we play Milwaukee, wherever we're playing them, this offense, outside of a couple games, 2 games that they won, they've been non-existent. And say whatever you want about Ray. I don't give a damn. I'll look you right in the face and say it. He's not a good pitcher. He's not that great, okay? He's not. I feel like the Reds just went out there and they got shoved on by Ben Lively. No offense to Ben and his family. But that's how I feel. Levi Stout came in the game, Nick. Levi Stout came in the game and he shoved for 6 innings on us. That's what I feel like right now. The guy is not that great. He's just not. So, and also, I want to point out, I'm not making excuses, but the umpire sucks ass. Kid show, but that's what he was. He was terrible. He was awful. Not why they lost, not saying that's why they lost completely, but to not bring it up would be malpractice.
Yeah, the umpire was atrocious. I mean, there was multiple times where I think completely. Look, when you're facing a pitcher like Colin Ray, who's not that good, the umpire helped him out, significantly helped him out. When it could have gone off the rails early in this game.
Listen,
we don't know, but the Reds didn't get that opportunity.
You're right, and you can say whatever you want about umpires don't matter, this, that, and the other over the course of a game. The better team's going to win. Yeah, you're probably right, 99 out of 100 times maybe. But you know what? When Will Benson busts his ass as much as he did in that at bat, he went like I don't know how many pitches it was, Nick. 10, 11, 12 pitches in that. 11 pitches in that at bat. 11 pitches in that at bat. 11 pitches. Busted his tail on the ground. And he walks right in front of Elly, right in front of him. And you want to have the audacity to not sit in the pocket as an umpire. If you know anything about umpires, you know what I'm talking about. He doesn't sit in the pocket. He's a bad umpire that sits right on the inside corner, and the ball literally crossed right in front of his face. I don't know how he missed it, but he missed it. And then right after that, you give up a bomb. How do you think Ray's feeling after he gives up an 11-pitch walk and he gives up a bomb the very next at bat? And then all of a sudden you want to sit here and act like it's not a big deal. It's a big deal. Does it take away from the fact the Reds had opportunities? No, it doesn't. It doesn't take away from that. But it to sit here and act like this isn't some malpractice from the guy behind the plate, it is. There's big moments in games, and that was a huge moment, and he sucked. And I hope he knows about it. I hope he finds that out. I hope someone tells him. All right, I'm ready to move on to something else.
Box score recap.
Love it.
All right, top of the first, Elly De La Cruz, third pitch of the game. He hit it 405 feet. He was robbed of a homer by Joey Wiemer. Tough way to get the game started, and the series started for the Reds. Bottom of the first, Graham Ashcraft walked the Brewers' leadoff hitter Christian Yelich. Then Yelich stole second base. Then William Contreras singled. Just like that, it was 1-0 Brewers. Top of the third row, Reds, Tyler Stevenson, hard hit infield single. Then, as Trace just mentioned, Will Benson had an incredible 11-pitch at-bat, only to be called out on what clearly should have been ball 4. Elly De La Cruz came to the plate next. The Brewers scoreboard operator decided to poke the bear and put in the player notes about Elly, quote, almost hit a home run in the first inning, ... but didn't, end quote. Elly then proceeded to hit a ball literally out of American Family Field, 113.7 off the bat, 456 feet. That made it 2-1 Reds. Both starting pitchers really settled in, and it was a 2-1 game going into the bottom of the 6th. Ashcraft struck out Adames to lead off the inning, but then gave up a solo home run to the newest Brewer, Sal Frelick, on his 105th pitch of the game. That tied the ball game up at 2. Ashcraft gave up a single and then was pulled at 110 pitches. Buck Farmer came in, and just like he did yesterday for Weaver, he got out of that jam, kept the game tied. Both bullpens, Reds got out of several jams, but it was a tie game going into the bottom of the 9th. Alexis Diaz did not record an out. Walk, single. Reds lose 3-2. Reds now a game and a half back behind the Brewers. Reds still at the moment hold the first NL wildcard spot. Arizona is down 5-2. If that score holds, the Reds will be alone holding the first wild card spot.
It's just there's some guys where we need some production. I know John, the good friend at DSC, did not want to do the ad read on losses. I understand why. Probably doesn't want to be associated with me being an absolute jerk. But let me tell you something. Shout out to DSC, Deep South Commodities. Elly De La Cruz hit a ball out of the stadium. Deep South Commodities deserves a shout out. Yeah, I know there's a rundown here, and Elly's on here first, and I'm not trying to skip past him without giving him his proper due. I thought tonight he made some plays at the shortstop position specifically that if he wasn't there, that probably don't happen. One is that double play between him and McLean. If he's not playing shortstop, that's not a double play, which is a big play in the game. So for those that always want to say McLean can play shortstop, McLean might play shortstop maybe a little bit better, but you don't really know that until you give Elly a chance to play maybe a significant amount of time at shortstop. And it's the chicken or the egg thing. Like, how are you supposed to find out what Elly can be at shortstop if he doesn't get to play there regularly? And I think that it's one of those things where until Elly, plays there 60 to 100 games, you're not going to be able to make a wise decision one way or the other over what your best infield is. I think the Reds have already kind of, I don't want to say showed their hand a little bit, but I think the Reds deep down, and I say the front office, maybe even David Bell, they believe they have their middle infield in Elly De La Cruz and Matt McLean, and that's just the facts. I know that Indy is on the rundown here a little bit. Maybe we'll get into that obviously at length, but I'll let you speak on your boy Elly. He had a hell of a day. Great game by him.
Well, yeah, I mean, a couple good games after his day off on Saturday. Had two balls over 110 miles an hour hit on Sunday, and then to come back today, basically should have hit 2 home runs. It's just great to see him, making some adjustments, grinding through his rookie season. I think Elly De La Cruz is going to be just all right. I don't know. Have you been pretty encouraged with Elly the last 2 days?
I don't want to say I've been encouraged with Elly all year, but listen, I mean, Elly is a ridiculous talent. I'm not even concerned about him one iota. Like it's not even a thought for me. I really don't even concern myself over it. I really, more or less for this team, I get concerned over the contagious thing. Like I feel like this team is very, very hot or cold at times with the bat. It seems like we feed off each other, which is great, but then oftentimes it feels like there's a game like tonight where you just can't get anything going and nobody can get the big hit. And outside of Elly, the ball really wasn't squared up a significant amount by too many guys. Votto's starting to be a concern. You're looking up and down the lineup. At some point, TJ Friedel has to be a little bit of a concern. I'm not sure where you're at on him yet, Nick, but he's been a guy that we consistently has gotten on base. And since the All-Star break, that's just not been the case. I'm not here to hit the panic button by any means, but the more and more you play in meaningful games, you have to get consistent production from guys. And the truth is that there's a lot of these guys we don't know what we're going to get. And I think that's the case for both of those guys I just mentioned. Friedel, you're not 100% sure because he's not been in the league for a long time. And Joey Votto, we've said this from the very beginning. And I know people have clipped us up and made fun of us and said, "Oh yeah, well look at him, he bangs still." And listen, I'm rooting for Joey Votto as much as I am the next guy. But he's 39 years old, going on 40, and he's had major shoulder surgery. To sit here and act like he's the Joey Votto of old is just ludicrous. It's absurd. It's crazy talk. Watch him play for a week. He's not the same guy. Does it mean that he can't still be a contributor and help this team, Nick? No, it doesn't. But to sit here and just have this blind faith that he's going to be a guy that should consistently crack this lineup is a whole nother topic of conversation. I don't know where you're at with that, but we're playing meaningful baseball, Nick. This isn't a time where tenure automatically gets you in the lineup. And just because you want to play first base and you don't want to DH doesn't mean you automatically get to play first base. And I'm not saying that we're there yet. I'm not hitting the panic button. But I don't know if you're as where I'm at or not, but your overall thoughts on Votto before we kind of get into Ashcraft and the bullpen.
Yeah, I'm not ready to hit the full panic button on Joey Votto as a platoon player. I thought it was a terrible decision to let him bat in the 7th inning. There's no way around that. And the only reason you keep him in is so that he could be available in the 9th against Devin Williams, and he looked terrible against Devin Williams, like just about everyone looks. So that wasn't his fault, but I'm not full panic mode in a platoon role. But the one thing that is kind of concerning and something we're going to get into later in the show is it sounds like the Reds, and I think a large portion of the fan base, more so than a month or 2 months ago, is definitely willing to part ways with Jonathan India. But part of the reason you're parting ways with Jonathan India is because Joey Votto is expected to be in the lineup. And
right.
Could we get to a point where that could backfire? Because let's say, I have no idea. I legitimately have no idea how Joey Votto's season is going to go. I could see him going on a tear and being a solid platoon player for the rest of the year, or I could see him completely falling off because he's 39 years old, and there's not a whole lot of data on players like this because there's not a whole lot of players that 39 years old that still play almost every day. So it's a concern because you move Jonathan India and then Joey Votto just never gets it going. And then you're putting Nick Senzel's playing every day. You call up Marty, maybe at some point.
That ain't the answer.
And but that's a risk too because he's never had a big league at bat.
Yeah, that's not
and I don't think you want to be putting a lot of pressure on a player like Marty, a guy that I love. I think is one of the best players of the entire organization in the middle of a playoff race.
Well, I think CES helps, right? I think CES helps a little bit if he's productive. I mean, we don't know yet, and I love CES as much as the next guy, trust me. But we have a lot of question marks. I mean, the only caveat to this, in my opinion, would be this, Nick. You sink and swim with the guys that you have in a way. And what I mean by that is if CES doesn't pan out and play well, if Steer ends up fizzling out and doesn't play well. And I say that as in like I have full confidence these guys do. So don't get it twisted. But at some point, you either have it or you don't, is what I'm getting at. Joey Votto, if you were to trade India and Joey Votto were to go cold, listen, I still believe in Stuart Fairchild. I think that there's a place for him to come up and possibly excel. I don't think that Marty has to be that answer per se. You can move Steer back to first base, let him play there a significant amount. You could even obviously put CES at first base if Votto loses it. It's not like it's a huge void if Joey Votto were to go really cold and you couldn't play him per se, and you also traded Jonathan India. But the fact of the matter is this offense has been Jekyll or Hyde. It's not like this is new in a way. It's just very frustrating and venom and anger and all these things come out because it's against the Brewers. If they would have lost tonight 3-2 against the Mets and Shea, we wouldn't be doing this. It's just that we're 2-9 against the Brewers. I don't know. I think it's 2-9, maybe 2-10 at this point. I don't even remember. But it's just frustrating. It's okay to be pissed off as a fan. And I know people in the chat are going to make fun of me like, oh, are the Brewers still not good, Trace? Are the Brewers not good? Like, do you watch these games and think to yourself, you know what? Man, dude, the Brewers, they're nails. Like, I don't want to face these guys. I felt that way when we played the Braves, Nick. When we played the Braves, I thought, dude, this team is unreal. I mean, if you beat the Braves in a best-of-5 or a best-of-7 series, you're going to have earned it. You had to play your best baseball to win. When you're walking guys all over the place, and you can say whatever you want, you can't get hits against a guy named Ray, then you're not playing up to your standard. You're not playing up to what you're capable of. And that's the most frustrating thing with this Reds team. I'll give the Brewers a little bit of credit. I'm not going to be naive here. But I'm certainly not going to sit here and watch. It'd be like me watching a football game and we turn the ball over 6 times, and then all of a sudden everybody wants to tell me that the other team's so great. It's like, oh, are they that great, or did we just suck? I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both. And maybe it's the fact that I can't stand the Brewers because they're the only team in front of us that's going to possibly stop us from going to the playoffs. That could be it too. But I don't know. What else do you want to talk about? Ashcraft, because he's a dog.
Let's talk about Tyler Stevenson before we move on to Ashcraft in the bullpen. I know you had high praise of Tyler Stevenson tonight. Was it the second inning? Blocked a couple balls. Thought he looked pretty good behind the plate. You seem to agree with that?
He played incredible. He had one instance where I almost wanted to delete my tweet. And I think it was in the 8th inning. Got bailed out. But outside of that, he played great, man. I'm happy for Tyler. I think that he's building on something. It's just inevitable, though, that I feel like it'll rear its ugly head at some point. All the stolen bases tonight were stolen off the pitcher. He had no chance to throw at anybody. And the one time he almost threw a guy out, he threw an absolute laser dart right on the bag. And so I give Tyler credit. I mean, he's still not hitting the ball all that hard. But I'm going to give him credit where credit's due. If that's what you want me to do, Nick, on this stream right now, I give him his credit. I give him his flowers. He's playing defensively. A significant amount of improvement has happened for him since I've watched him from the beginning of the year to now. And maybe that's because he's playing more behind the plate. Who knew?
Well, I think defensively is the bigger concern with him. So if that's the thing that improves and the offense kind of stays, I mean, he's still got a 699 OPS. That's not bad for a catcher. I think we have to continue to remember that. But if he can figure out the defense to where he's, average, right? I mean, then I think that at least plays. And again, I was thinking this tonight, Trace, as watching this game. We have to remember this was supposed to be a development year for Tyler Stevenson. Like, the Reds brought in 3 catchers. He's only supposed to catch 60 games because he's coming off this terrible injury. He's had a really hard development because in 2020 didn't pretty much just sat on the sidelines, and I think he was playing at Prasco Park a little bit. I mean, he missed a whole year of development at a crucial spot in his career. So I still think I definitely think there's some potential for Tyler Stevenson to continue to really progress defensively as a catcher. As a hitter, I don't know. That's where maybe his ceiling's not really all that high. But if the defense can catch up, the ceiling doesn't need to be that high. Does that make sense?
It does. It's just that the caveat that I would put out there is that it's hard for me to believe that you're going to get consistent good catching from Tyler Stevenson. And until they install robot umpires, which by the day I can't wait for, his framing matters. I mean, as much as we want to get mad about Contreras trying to frame every pitch under literally in mankind, I mean, if the ball's within 6 feet of the plate, Contreras is framing it. As much as we want to get mad about that, we have to respect it a little bit because it does get his guys calls. And Tyler Stevenson doesn't get his guys calls. So Listen, I'm being very clear when I say this. Do I think that should be a knock against him? It shouldn't. The umpires should do their damn job and get it right, period. Doesn't matter who's back there. But they don't. So you got to knock it a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, I guess for lack of a better term, I'm still not sold on him being a catcher that can help you win a World Series. I mean, the pass ball in the 8th inning, Nick, we got bailed out because I think Law was able to strike somebody out. But if or I think it was a ground ball right at a guy, we threw him out at home. Excuse me. But if that's a sacrifice fly, everybody's talking about how the pass ball caused the Reds to lose the game. So I don't know, and I know that not every catcher stops every single ball, but let's be very clear that more balls get past Tyler Stephenson than most catchers. So, I don't know. It's as nice as I can be to Tyler Stephenson.
You hit your max for the day. You hit your ceiling of Tyler Stephenson praise.
Yeah, I did. I can't sit here and act like he's going to be a Gold Glove catcher just because he had 7 innings of great baseball. Graham Ashcraft, though, I do love him.
Turned his season around.
It's just the competitive nature more than anything, Nick.
8 strikeouts. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you feel about him. I thought he made a lot of really good pitches. And I think the Brewers, if you want to give them any credit at all, I'd say that, hey, I thought they had some good at-bats against him. They extended some at-bats. You know, he had some guys down 0-2 and they would work their way all the way back, and then they would cause a walk. I thought he'd make really good pitches right on the corners, and they would just, barely get a piece. That's the one thing about him. Sometimes, if you were to want to be nitpicky against Graham Ashcraft, I don't know if he has like a true out pitch. Like he did have a lot of strikeouts tonight, but it just feels like it's really hard for him to have guys swing and miss. And I know that sounds like an idiotic take after he just struck out his career high worth of guys, but you get my point, hopefully.
No, I legitimately was kind of thinking the same thing, and our guy Rico actually tweeted about that during the game. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like he walked 4 batters tonight, but it wasn't like it was 4 or 5 pitch walks. It was a lot of times he got ahead 0-2, 1-2, and they just foul pitch off after pitch, and it eventually just kind of worked his walks. But yeah, I mean, he's just been. I mean, his last 4 starts, 1 earned run. Last 5 starts, 1 earned run, 1 earned run, 1 earned run, 2 earned runs, 2 earned runs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's getting it done. And I mean, he was a guy that we thought was trending towards AAA.
Yeah, we needed him.
A month ago.
We wanted him to go on a phantom IL, and we thought we got our wish. Right? We did. He got hit in the leg against the Dodgers, and we were like, this is what we needed. We needed him to go on a rehab start. The Reds didn't even give him a rehab start. They brought him right back. So they obviously believed in him more than we did. But a quick question from the chat. Zach Howard wants to know how far off are the robotic strike zones? 2 years, in my opinion. 2 years. Like next year.
I think Manfred just said it's for sure not next year.
Yeah, I think it's 2 years away. But we'll see where it goes. I don't know. Tonight seemed like they needed it more than ever. But
I don't know, Trace. I don't know how you can watch a game like tonight and not be in favor of robot umpires. I know there's still a few holdouts. I just do not. What is appealing about clear missed calls in a game as the human element? I have no idea why anyone wants that.
I think some of it has to do with the fact that when replay has been introduced in sports in general, it wasn't perfect and it was kind of muddy. So games would take too long, right? So like replay, the stigma of replay, in my opinion, for an older generation of people that watched basketball and they've watched football, and I bring up these other sports because those sports obviously implemented it first. The replay took so long, it felt like the flow of the game got messed up. And now I think that they've been able to expedite these things so quickly to where, just like the pitch clock, if you implemented a robotic umpire, the vast public wouldn't even know a difference because it's so quick and instant. Now, the only thing they're going to have to clean up are these breaking balls that like hit the dirt and they barely clip the zone. And it begs the question, is that a part of the integrity of the game? Should that be called a strike or not? That's probably the biggest gray area for me. in regards to what should and shouldn't be a strike? Do we want pitchers to learn pitches that are just straight hammers and they barely clip the zone and the front edge of the zone and it spikes into the dirt and it's called a strike because robotically it barely nicked the zone? I think that's probably the biggest thing that stops it from being an automatic implementation right now.
Yeah, because you have to get it right when you do it. You don't. That's a fair point, but it's brutal till we get there. It's coming. There's no way when our kids are our age that there's humans calling balls and strikes if baseball's still around.
I think it will be, and they will not be calling balls and strikes, which is perfectly fine. The bullpen, I know people are going to be maybe upset with Diaz. Listen, it was coming, and it's inevitable. You cannot score 2 runs and win that many baseball games. We've got to score runs, man. We've got to score runs. This team, if you want to bring up a couple guys, they all pitched well. I mean, they all pitched well. Shout out to Cruz, your guy, by the way.
That one ball he gave up was pretty close. I definitely my stomach sunk for a second. I don't know. See, so you said while we were watching, you don't think Diaz pitching in these non-save situations means anything. You don't think there's anything to this him not pitching in these non-saves and struggling as much as he seems to have.
I think here you can play. Listen, it's like you can kill. You're damned if you do. You're damned if you don't. In a way, for me, I'll paint the picture. If you had Diaz just sitting there, you didn't throw him yesterday, right? He wasn't available, and you're going into a series where it's possible that he doesn't pitch tomorrow. What happens if you're sitting around on Sunday in a 2-run game or a 1-run game that he has to come in and close it, and he hasn't pitched for 4 days? It's like if he would have gone out there and went 1, 2, 3, no one would have thought twice about it. But since he didn't do his job, now David Bell's on the hook. It's his fault. And maybe there is something to it because at this point Diaz has struggled anytime he hasn't come in. Anytime he's come into a game that's not a safe situation, his statistics, his splits are different. So I'm not poo-pooing that away. I'm not saying that's a no-brainer. That's a nothing situation, but I don't put much stock into it. I guess you do.
I don't know. He definitely seems like he's not the same pitcher. And I don't know. I don't know if it's a little bit of hyperbole or not. I'm kind of like caught in between in my feelings on that. But
yeah. Hey,
good news though. Trace only threw 7 pitches tonight.
Yeah, he'll be ready for tomorrow. He'll be ready for tomorrow. And I
guess. If you're gonna give it up, at least give it up in 7 pitches. Don't go 25.
Yeah, Jared Combs brings up the point and says, wouldn't that be a good thing that he gets his rest? It's not that. Yeah, I mean, of course it's good that he gets his rest. My point is that there's a fine line between rest and rust, and having your best arm possibly not. And I'll hypothetically say that he doesn't need to pitch on Sunday because it's another blowout. I know there's too many hypotheticals here, but I just don't want the best arm in your bullpen not to throw the ball. And just because he came out and he got hit a little bit, it's hard for me to sit here and say, oh, well, if you would have come into a 1-run game in the 10th inning and they were up by a run, he would have thrown the ball way better. I don't believe that. I just don't. Maybe I'm like, I'm taking it. We got role reversals right now. And I'm not saying you're wholeheartedly in on the fact that he shouldn't have come in, Nick, but you are very much an analytical person, and you like the statistical nature of the game, and more times than not that you think that plays itself out. I'm the guy that says, hey, these are human beings. You can't always just do that. There's emotions that come with this. But in this situation, I am defending David Bell and saying I don't think that there's a huge emphasis one way or the other. I just don't. If Lucas Sims comes in this game, and let's just say Lucas Sims does exactly what Diaz does, David Bell gets crushed for it. You know what I say? Quit worrying about the bullpen. Score some runs. How about that? Score some runs. We got 2 runs against Ray. That's what I'm talking about. You want to get pissed off at somebody? Go get pissed off at Jake Fraley. Go get pissed off at Joey Votto. Go get pissed off at Christian Encarnacion-Strand. Go get pissed off at one of those guys. Don't get mad at David Bell in the bullpen.
Most importantly, get pissed off at the home plate umpire. It also should be pointed out, though, that Bell's only relievers left were Duarte, who just got called up today, Jabot, who's been completely exhausted, Sims, and Diaz. That was it. So it's not like he also didn't really have a whole lot of options, too, once you got to the 9th inning. It's not like he had a bunch of just fresh arms that he hadn't gone to yet. Derek Lowe throwing 28 pitches.
Yeah. Super chat. John Linehan, I think is how you say his last name. He says, do you guys think that Votto's major shoulder surgery is the reason why he's not close to being the player he used to be? John, that's exactly the vast majority of the reason why I didn't think he was going to be the player he's going to be. It's a shoulder surgery. Shoulder surgeries are incredibly difficult to come back from over, I don't want to say almost any other injury in his spot, but almost any other injury in his spot. And I get he's not a pitcher, but and I'm not suggesting that I know a lot of things, blah, 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 but, I've talked with Tim Krimchek about different types of injuries and which ones are a little more difficult to come back from versus others. And my wife is a nurse that also works at said place that Joey Votto got his surgery from. So I asked these questions from people that know a little bit more than this stuff than I do. And the first thing my wife said was that shoulder surgery, the pain that he's going to be in, and the amount of rehab he's going to have to do just to get it back even close to what it felt like before is going to be an immense amount. It's going to be a ton of work. And to give Joey Votto credit, right? Like, the one thing that you can't get on Joey Votto about is his work ethic and how much he cares and how much he wants to get back. I think it's incredible that he's come back and he looked the way that he has in short stints. But overall, and I love Joey Votto, but people wanted to put blinders on the entire time, Nick. They wanted to mask this thing up. They wanted to put lipstick all over the pig and say, oh, well, yeah, it's fine. He went 2 for 45 in AAA when he first came back from rehab. No big deal. And you know what? He came back his first game. He hit a couple bombs, and everybody wanted to get on Twitter and be like, Joey Votto's back. He bangs. He's the man. How dare you question him? I'm not questioning him.
Pick up the option.
Yeah, pick up the option. Right now, spend $20 million on him next year. I'm not even trying to be like, oh, look at me, I'm right. That's not the angle about this that I'm taking. I hate that he's not playing up to the standard that he expects to play at. But it's also, newsflash, he's 40 years old, man. It's not easy to come back from that surgery, Nick, and he's 40. Like,
well, it's the combination of both. So first off, there's only 4 players in Major League Baseball this year that are 39 or older that have gotten at bat. You have Joey Votto, who's actually performed pretty well. I mean, obviously that was all in like 3 games, as we know. You have Yuli Gurriel, who has a 705 OPS. You have Miguel Cabrera, who has a 654 OPS. And Nelson Cruz, who has a 681 OPS, who got DFA'd. That's it. So, like, players aren't supposed to perform well at this age. It's not normal. What Joey Votto did at 37 years old in 2021 was not normal. So it was just you couldn't have expected him to perform well. That should have never been an expectation. If it was, I don't think you're being fair to him.
I
coming
agree.
Into this year.
That's an excellent point by you. Joey Votto should not take any slander, any hate, any frustration from this fan base. It's not his fault that we're sitting in a position right now where he's expected to produce. I think it's in a weird spot where the guy's going to have a statue outside the stadium at some point. So what do you do if you're David Bell? You're like, he still is Joey Votto. I can't sit this guy on the bench and let him rot or tell him that we're going to DFA him or tell him he needs to retire. That's not going to happen. But at some point, I don't think the Reds in any scenario, and this goes back to why we should all be incredibly thankful. We should all be jumping for joy. Do you think for a half a second that Nick Krall and David Bell thought when they went to spring training this year that they were going to have a situation on July 24th that they were going to be fighting for the NL Central and Joey Votto was going to be in a spot where you probably needed to figure out whether he should play or not play every day? David Bell and Nick Krall, they probably thought, and I know for a fact, I don't say fact because I'm pretty damn sure, they probably thought Joey Votto was going to ride out into the sunset, They were going to be nurturing these guys named Matt McLain and Ellie De La Cruz and CES, and they were going to be all playing in Louisville, and then they might get called up in September, and everybody gets excited, and they were going to hit the ground running on opening day in 2024. And it just so happens that these guys turned out to be absolute ballers, way ahead of schedule, and now you got a spot where it's weird. And I'm not mad at David Bell for playing Joey Votto. I just like to say that we're not going to get here and we as a fan base can't turn on Joey Votto because he's 39, going on 40 years old, has major shoulder surgery, and we're in the middle of a playoff race, and you're expecting him to be prime Joey Votto. It's not realistic. It never should have been realistic. Just because the fanboys wanted to get out there the first couple games that he came back and acted like he was the guy that he used to be, it's just not the case. Doesn't mean I don't think that Joey Votto should play, but let's not get it twisted. He ain't that guy that he used to be, and that's perfectly fine, Nick. I think it's safe to say that is okay.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm not giving up on him, but if it gets to a point where it's completely obvious, nothing should be directed at Joey Votto. It should be Reds front office, you need to be the one to make the tough decision here. If it gets to that point, I don't think we're there yet.
We're not there yet.
Other than David Bell, I think that was maybe one of David Bell's worst moves of the entire year. Not pinch hitting for him. That was awful. Yeah, 4 righties on the bench. I thought that was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. If you're asking me whether the only caveat I would say about that is that Nick Senzel doesn't hit righties well. If you bring in India, then that might cause an issue for something else that's going on that I think we're going to do right now on the next segment.
Dun dun dun.
You can say what you want, chat, but that was a big league segue.
That was 4.5 out of 5.
If you listen to this show, you watch this show, you listen to Spaces back in the winter. This isn't new. If you're new to this whole thing, let me welcome you in. Let me open the door for you. You're late to the party, dog. You're late to the party. We've been doing this shit for 3 months. We've been telling you that there's not room. There's been sprinkling. They've been salting this thing. They've been salting this thing for a couple months, Nick. It all started when Matt McLain came up, and then they brought Ellie up, and those guys started performing the way they performed. India struggled the way he did, and they looked down in Double-A, and they got a kid named Marty who's tearing it up. They decided to put him in Triple-A for a reason, Nick. And the reason was quite clear to me as soon as they made that move. And now it's just a matter of time. They couldn't get enough people to bite on their trade stuff. They were trying to deal Jonathan India. They couldn't quite get what they wanted. So now they leak to the public that Jonathan India is available to try to use that as a negotiation tactic for the rest of the league. And they're going to try to make a deal here in the next week. And that's just the way it goes. Am I missing something?
I was a little surprised about the Reds think they can get a controllable starting pitcher back for Jonathan India, because I did not think that was a possibility. I thought a team that was going to want Jonathan India was going to be a team in a full win now mode that's going to be wanting to trade prospects that are quite a bit away. And maybe that'll end up being the case. Maybe there's a little bit of positioning from Nick Krall to go ahead and put that, that kind of would be smart on his behalf, kind of put that out now. So it's hey, I've been trying to get, a controllable starting pitcher. And then when ultimately they end up taking, 2 players that report to Daytona, it maybe softens the blow.
Perhaps. I don't really give a damn what the fan base thinks. I don't think Nick Krall does either.
Not one bit.
So it is what, listen, I've said this 1,000 times, Nick. I don't know how many more times I need to say it. When you negotiate in life, right, part of your negotiation is what you have on the back end of something. It's the art of the deal. if you know that you already have something of value behind something that you're giving away, then at that point, it makes it easier to give it away. If you were a 10-year-old kid, Nick, right, and you had a bike at home, and you ride bikes every day, and it just so happens to be your birthday, Nick, and you got a brand new shiny bike, and you rode it for the first time, and you get back to your garage, and you have this beautiful bike that you love now. Do you think that kid cares as much about the old bike he had? Probably doesn't. Probably happy to give it away. I'm not suggesting the Reds give him away, but the fact of the matter is there something better? And it's okay that we might not get as much value as you need out of your old bike, but that's what it is now. It's an old bike. And you could sit here and say, oh, Trace, what happens? What happens when Matt McLain isn't the guy he looked like in the first half? He could be the next Jonathan India. Well, you know what then? Then all of this isn't going to work anyways. Because if we're relying on one or two guys that are coming up to be the ultimate player to replace Jonathan India, and so be it. Let's not forget Jonathan India has to do two things to make him relevant for this organization. One is agree to an extension. He's not going to do that. The second thing with Jonathan India is that he has to be willing to move positions, and he's not going to do that. And if he does move positions, the last thing I want to say again, I'll say it out loud again, is if he does move positions, he becomes significantly less valuable to this organization. So all of those things, add them all up, it's ready to move on. Put that thing in the yard sale, Nick, and if somebody drives by and you got a $20 sticker on it, and they say, will you take $15 for it? Let them have it for $15 and let's move on. We need some more room in the garage.
Were you a little bit surprised about that there was this report that came out today? The Reds are usually very tight-lipped. Now, obviously, it could be another team that leaked this out. Or it could be the Reds. It could be, like I mentioned, with Krall maybe trying to position himself. Were you a little surprised by this?
I don't know. I don't think so. Were you?
I was. I didn't.
It's a negotiation tactic.
But most of the trades the Reds have made in recent memory, there has not been a single.
That's because it's the first time that the Reds are trying to figure out if they can get any more juice out of the squeeze of the value of Jonathan India. The rest of the league isn't looking at Jonathan India any differently than we are. And I say we are as in the front office of the Reds. He's using that. He's trying to get any way which possible somebody else in the deal. There's one team right now, and this is all speculation. This is how I feel. And I'm not saying, oh, look at me, I've done a bunch of deals. I've read a ton of negotiation books. I've been in a lot of negotiations. I've done that thing in my life. I've been a part of it. I still do it on a daily basis. When you are a part of a deal, the best thing you can have in a deal is two parties. If you don't have two parties, you don't have a lot of leverage. You have no leverage. If there's only one person that wants the deal, you have little to no leverage, especially if that other person on the other end knows that. You're not going to get a good deal. So Nick Krall is doing everything he possibly can to get one more team to be interested. Because if he can do that, he can pin them both up against each other and make it this quick race to the end. He can call up one general manager and says, listen, if I don't get XYZ, I'm moving on. I'm sending him to the other team. And he'll do the same exact thing to the other guy and turn around and put it on them. And then at the last minute, he'll make a decision on which way he's getting the best deal. Right now, he has either 0 teams that are interested in getting what he wants, or he has 1 team. He's trying like hell to find 2. That's what's going on. That's why he put that out there. 100% believe that.
I do think we do need to, again, point out for anyone newly watching or newly listening, I don't think Jonathan India's had a bad season. I don't even really think Jonathan India's had a very disappointing season if you had realistic expectations for him coming into this year. I do not think trading Jonathan India, if it happens, is it all about Jonathan India. I think it's about Elly De La Cruz. I think it's about Matt McLain. I think it's about Noelvi Marte. And I think it's about Christian Encarncaion-Strand. Jonathan India didn't do anything wrong. He played about what you should have realistically expected for him. And it's just kind of unfortunate that he just doesn't fit the Reds' needs. I think we should add that into the conversations with Jonathan India as it kind of progresses here.
If Jonathan India was a catcher, right? Like Tyler Stevenson, could you make the argument that Tyler Stevenson and Jonathan India are kind of the same mold right now? Like they're underperforming a little bit, but they're still not bad players. Yeah. It's just that one guy plays a position that we don't have a ton of depth at, or we don't have guys that are coming up through the ranks. Like if Adley Rutschman was, and I'm throwing this hypothetical out there, but if Adley Rutschman was in AAA for us, we'd be talking about how we could move Tyler Stevenson tomorrow. It just so happens that Jonathan India plays second base, and that's why he's in the limelight, and that's why he's probably going to get moved.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, for Jonathan India, it could end up being a really good situation for him. You know, he's not in a situation where he's got like 4 guys on his back, right? Like, Jonathan India has to know that all these other guys are better defensive players than him. He could go to another team where there's just not this like internal competition where you have players that are better, you have more maybe DH spots available, all those kind of things. Right. So it could really end up being a good thing for Jonathan India in his career. I see a question in the chat.
Go ahead.
Sir, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, listen, I'll say my point quickly. I was just going to say, and if Jonathan India gets traded, I'm not rooting against him. I hope he goes off and he has a great career. It doesn't mean that just because he leaves and he turns into an all-star that the Reds made a bad decision. And if he turns out to be a guy that struggles and hits a $190 the rest of his career, which he won't, that the Reds made an unbelievable deal. It's part of what it's part of the Reds' needs now. Go ahead with the question in the chat.
Well, the question was from Lincoln. What's the plan with 3 catchers? Well, Curt Casali was put on the IL today, so there's only 2 catchers right now, and you're only about 5 weeks away from expanded rosters. So you'll have 3 extra spots, and most teams carry 3 catchers once you get into September. So I think the Reds are probably trying to buy time on that. I don't know. Maybe they'll dump one at one point, but right now they only have 2.
Well, it just so happens that Casali comes back right at the deadline. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, they're going to make a trade, Nick. We're going to act like they're not going to.
Trades. I'm interested. I want to see. I'm curious how many deals the Reds will make. I don't think it's trade. I Nick Krall's cooking. He's cooking something up, and I don't even know what it is. That's what kind of makes it exciting. Last year, you pretty well knew, right, who was going out.
That's hard to say. The leader in the clubhouse is Jonathan India.
Well, the good question, Alex Wallace. Over 2.5. I'm taking over, and I'm going to say major league players that are traded.
You're taking over 2.5. Major league players, you're out of your mind.
I would definitely take over 1.5. I don't know. I think.
Am I crazy?
I think the Krall's get a wild. I think the Krall's. I think there's a good chance India's moved. I think there's a good chance Luke Maile or Curt Casali or someone there's moved. I think there's still a possibility there's a possibility they could trade India and Senzel.
Okay.
And I think there's still maybe there's a wild card out there that he makes a move and then makes another move that makes sense, but we can't see it right now.
We'll see. No matter what Nick Krall does, shout out Krall-Aid, I'm gonna buy into it because he's given me the ability to believe in him, and I'll blindly follow him until he proves me wrong. Even if he traded someone crazy, like I'd still would kind of be like, all right, whatever, let's roll. I know that the boneheads in the office today wanted to throw Jake Fraley out there as clickbait. Wild. But even if they did something like that, I'd be like, okay, whatever. Let's see how it goes. Nick Senzel, what does he return, though? I mean, is he? Nick Senzel seems like a guy that would be more valuable this year and worth something than a lottery ticket, which is all you're going to get back for Nick Senzel. And maybe that lottery ticket pans out, but I don't know if I'm in a position this year to throw Nick Senzel to the curb when I think he could be a guy that could come in and pinch hit against left-handed pitchers when you have guys like Jake Fraley and Will Benson, maybe not as much, but definitely Joey Votto in the lineup.
Yeah, I agree, but it all depends. As we said all year, it all depends on what are you getting back, right?
Yep. What always matters. That's always the denominator.
But right now, you also have to replace a Senzel or a Newman or any of those guys. You have Stuart Fairchild. You have Jose Barrero, who was all of a sudden figured out how to get it again. He could be traded. Can I count him in my over in 2.5 if he's one of them that's moved?
Who?
Can it be someone that's? Can I count if Jose Barrero's moved? Can I count that in my over 2.5?
Nah, I don't. I wasn't thinking that, but sure. Whatever. If you're begging, if you want to be like Craig Counsell and Contreras the whole game and just beg for every call in the world, then go ahead, beg away.
But then, and you also have Noelvi Marte. I mean, that's for 3 right-handed bats that are all in AAA that could be major league contributors. So again, if you're like, let's say Nick Senzel could bring back a major league reliever.
Do you think that they'll bring Marte up like that? Do you think they'll bring Marte up like that, or are they only going to bring him up in a start every day situation? Like, are they going to bring Marte up at the end of the year and say, you know what, we want to put him on our playoff roster as a bench guy?
Yes. Yeah. I think Marte. I mean, I think they're going to want him. They have a number of at bats they want him to get to this year, and I think once he hits that, I would guess it's probably closer to like that September expanded rosters. And you got to remember, minor league baseball I think ends the first week in September, so there's like really nowhere for him to play anyway. So, yeah, I think Noelvi Marte is going to be on the major league roster, barring just an injury or a collapse down the stretch. Right. That's why I'm a little more willing to part with. Like I could realistically trade India and Senzel because I have Marte, Barrero, Fairchild, even TJ Hopkins had a really good year.
Newman.
Yeah, you still have Newman. Maybe you trade Newman in India. I don't know. That's why I think you could get to that 3.
Yeah, I mean Newman has some value.
Yeah.
So we'll see. That's if he can keep the gastritis away. So, you got NL Power Rankings. Today. Yeah, he's back.
Yeah. So
what you got?
So we got a really good question on YouTube. By the way, anyone who watches after the fact, if you ever have any questions you want for the show, you don't watch live, put it in the comments. I look through them every day, and we'll try to get to them. But this is from Chris A. Rays 2340. Sorry if I butchered that. Hardwood, it's all an at, but he basically asked us to rank the NL wild card competition. So here you go. Here's a slide to make it easier. So rank them: Reds, D-backs, Marlins, Giants, Phillies. I thought this was a fun question.
I gotta put the Reds. First? I gotta put the Reds in there.
Yeah, Reds got to be.
The Reds are in there with that. Okay.
Yeah, he basically wanted to know where the Reds would stack up with those teams. I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got to take the Phillies number 1. I mean, just because they have, Bryce Harper. They have that front end of the rotation with Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. They still have Trey Turner, who hasn't had a great year, but I mean, he still, I think, has a potential to be a complete superstar. So I think I would take the Phillies first.
Okay.
And that's really the only one that really I feel confident about. Everyone else, I feel like it really legitimately is bunched. I'll be the homer. I'll take the Reds next. Then I think I would take the Diamondbacks, just because they have Zach Gallen. And then I think the Giants, then the Marlins. But man, it's tough. That was a good question.
I would go D-backs.
Okay.
Reds.
All right.
D-backs, Reds, Phillies, Giants, Marlins.
So welcome You're welcome, Miami Marlins, for getting woke up on Chatterbox Reds and going on a 10-game win streak.
Right. I mean, I don't know, man. I kind of want to put the Reds first. I feel like a homer doing that.
I feel like you put the Reds first, the Reds fifth. Like, I really legitimately think these teams are very close.
I got a wild question for you.
Are a little bit ahead.
If you took the Reds out and you put the Brewers in there, where are you putting the Brewers at? That's kind of my point. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I'd have them behind the Phillies. The big wild card with them is Woodruff, and Woodruff coming back. Is he able to get back and be that like big time number 2 behind Corbin Burns? I think that's kind of what could separate them a little bit from the pack.
Roger Swinney says that the Reds lineup is elite. I'm not disagreeing with that, but we can't say they're elite. They're not the Braves. Like, that's elite. When you say elite to me, that's the highest echelon that you can go. Elite offenses don't do what they've done against the Brewers these last 3 series. They just don't.
Yeah, I don't think
they don't.
I do think, though, that there's a lot of elite lineups that do slump. However, I don't think the Reds lineup is elite. I think the Reds lineup is deep, and I think the Reds lineup is full of upside. Yeah, I think it has the potential to be elite, but I don't think they're there yet.
Listen, I'm going to say something really crappy.
Oh, boy.
When Joey Votto, Tyler Stevenson, and TJ Friedel in the second half of this year are all in the same lineup together, I don't want to hear one word about an elite lineup. That's the truth, though. How bad's TJ Friedel been? How long is that golden boy going to get a pass? He's been hot garbage. I love that you can look these stats up this fast. I'm not that good at it.
We had like 4 hard hit balls the other day.
I'm so tired of hearing about these hard hit balls. All right, damn it. I don't care about no hard hit balls. At some point, I want the fruit in my hand. I'm tired of hearing you telling me about how you had the fruit in your hand before you got here, and it looked great, and then you dropped it on the way in, and eventually you're going to bring in fruit that looks good. I'm tired of it. I just bring it and put it in my hand. TJ Friedel has been garbage the second half of this year.
Yeah, he did have a homer and 2 hits on Saturday and 2 hits on Sunday.
What has he done since the All-Star break?
I'll pull it for you. 7-14. I'm not going to be able to include tonight.
Well, that's fine. He didn't do anything tonight. I'll include it for you.
.216. He has not walked in the second half. How's that possible?
He has been garbage. What's his on-base percentage? 216?
216.
216.
Same as his average.
We got a noodle arm center fielder hitting 216. On base 216.
37 plate appearances.
What's his slugging? I know you didn't bring that up on purpose.
351. It's a lot better than his on-base percentage.
I still like TJ. This isn't a slander post against TJ. We got to pick it up, man. Got to pick it up. If we're gonna tell me this lineup, if you're gonna tell me this lineup is elite, let's. We need 216 OBP coming out of the 2-hole, coming out of the leadoff man. That ain't it, dog. Gonna have to figure it out up there.
Yeah, I do think TJ Friedel is eventually a bottom of the order, really solid center fielder, and I feel like I have been saying that. I don't have an issue with him batting at the top of the lineup right now while you're trying to get other guys comfortable. But I think eventually he'll slide into that, and I think he'll be completely fine in that role. And then probably when he has a slump like this, it probably doesn't feel as magnified. Is that fair?
That's very fair. I'll tell you, the beautiful thing about Friedel is he can help you. You know that he can help you in important parts of the defensive side of the ball. I don't know if you can say that about Joey Votto. And this isn't like slander Joey Votto season, but I do have a quick question for you. Does it bug the shit out of you the way that he holds guys on at first base? I mean, you literally can't pick a guy off at first base with Joey Votto. It's nearly impossible based off the way that he like stands and he tags.
I can't say it's ever bothered me. It is a little interesting, that he stands like that. I'm guessing he probably the way he thinks. There's probably some scientific data on this helps me get to balls that are hit to my right at a 34% advantage or something.
You're probably right. You're not wrong about that. That reminds me of when Tyler Stevenson at the beginning of the year was catching off of one knee because some catching coach told him that it's like what did he say? It's like when you draw back a bow and arrow and you're going to shoot a bow and arrow, you get on your knees because it's got some stability. It sounds like a bunch of hogwash they come up with because they were bored in the off season. They've been catching one way for 70 years. If Johnny Bench didn't do it, then Tyler Stevenson shouldn't do it. That's the way I look at it. But anyways, Toxic Trace is in full force here late at night. I'm just so sick and tired of the Brewers. I am sick and tired of these assholes.
Well, you know what's good news, Trace?
We get to play him again? Is that good news?
And we have Andrew Abbott on the mound tomorrow. No, we don't. Oh, no.
It's all right.
Oh, rookie season here.
Well, I got bad news. They got a guy named Burns on the mound, too.
There we go.
Who, what, when, where, and why, Nick?
All right, tomorrow, Andrew Abbott against Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns has been pretty good. Last two starts, 14 innings pitched, no runs allowed, 3 walks, 23 strikeouts. You know what that tells me, Trace? He's due for a bad outing. Not a lot of success. A lot of guys that are due for against Corbin Burns. Fraley's 1 for 10. Friedel's 1 for 8. India's 2 for 14. Does have a home run. McLean's 1 for 8. Steers 0 for 5. Stevenson's 0 for 4. Votto 3 for 19. But he does have a home run. Andrew Abbott, though, last start out, 8 innings pitched, 1 hit, no runs, 6 strikeouts. And he bounced back after a tough first start against the Brewers. Was really solid his last time against the Brewers. 6 innings pitched, 2 runs allowed. So, Reds need this one tomorrow.
Thomas in the chat says y'all are too negative tonight. I'm sorry for that, man. I really am.
Still
I could be better. Spot. Yeah, I mean, I could be better. But you get what you get with me, man. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and put on a face. I'm pissed off, man. I'm tired of it. I sat here and watched 9 innings of baseball tonight, and I did not watch the Reds play anywhere close to the level of baseball they're capable of playing at. And maybe the Brewers can feel the same way. I don't know. But I watch this Reds team play every night, almost every night. And when we play the Brewers, it just feels weird. Feels like we're not the same team. And I don't know what it is about them, but maybe they got our number. Maybe we'll pull the Pedro move. You know what I'm talking about, Pedro Martinez? Let's just start calling him our daddy. And then all of a sudden, in a reverse psychology way, then you start to get to him. That's all it took from Pedro. Pedro started calling the Yankees his daddy. Next thing you know, that never was the case again. But
I think it was.
Go ahead.
I think tonight it was more the way the game went. Like I feel like if the Reds would have just lost a 2-1 game, I probably would have been like, hey, whatever. It's just been that kind of season. It's just Ellie comes up, rips that first pitch, like, I got a homer right off the bat. He gets robbed, but then he comes back, hits that 2-run homer, big moment, and then just you had the lead, you couldn't find a way. The ump sucked, and there was just a lot of negative things in this game tonight. It was an annoying loss, more so than a lot of the other losses.
You know what? Steve brings up a good point. I know I always use cross-reference sports here, but he says it kind of feels like the Chiefs feel this way about the Bengals. It kind of feels that way. I bet the Chiefs fans feel exactly how we feel about the Brewers. Like they probably watch The Chiefs play every week. They looked amazing. They play amazing. They play this different style of football that's a little more fun to watch, per se. And then they play against the Bengals, and they just look at the Bengals defense, and they don't have any big-time names. There's no one on the Bengals team that you could overly say, like, on the defensive side of the ball, like, wow, look at that guy. He's an all-star. He's a Pro Bowler. We look at the Brewers lineup, or at least I do, and I think, who is this guy? This guy's hitting 210. This guy's hitting 240. I mean, the Weimer guy, God bless his soul, he's hitting like $190. Now he is Babe Ruth against the Reds, like you said. But I mean, he's taking daddy hacks that he's swinging and missing balls by literally 2 feet. There's nothing about the Brewers that impresses me. There's nothing about it except they keep beating us. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm going to stop saying they're bad. I promise I'll stop saying they're bad.
To their credit, their lineup is atrocious. It's literally the worst lineup in the National League. They're like last in every stat. I said on the podcast this morning. But to the Brewers' credit, they have really, really good pitching, top to bottom. Their bullpen is elite. That wins you a lot of games. And their defense is incredible. So they have the great pitching and the great defense, and they just win a lot of ugly, stupid, annoying games like tonight. Like, this is their recipe to win. This is exactly the way they draw it up.
It's a good point. It's about maybe the best point on the podcast. 2 hours in, it feels like. All right, Nick. Well, they do play tomorrow. We keep doing this over and over again. I'm not out on the Reds. I'm not sitting here saying that we should, crawl back in a hole and die. I don't know, man. I think we're going to win this division. I really do. I just don't know how, but we're going to win it. And for those that are concerned about the rest of the schedule, let me remind you that if we could just get through this month, a game or 2 games out of first place, we got a damn good chance to win this. Because a lot of these teams in September that we play are going to be playing a bunch of nobodies. And I say nobodies, who knows, maybe they get hot, maybe this turns into one of those bads. But my point is there's going to be a lot of September call-ups playing for a lot of the teams that we play against. They're going to be teams that are sellers at the deadline. They're not going to be anywhere near the teams that they used to be all year long, and I'd like to take advantage of that. And we'll see how it goes, but we need to survive in advance, Nick, the next about week and a half. So...
Jared Combs, great team doesn't have a negative run differential. Well, Reds are -4, Brewers are -5. So I guess neither one are great.
He's got a point. Great is a strong term.
Yeah.
Great is a strong term. The Reds aren't great. No one's saying the Reds are great. I think I've said the only thing I've said in this podcast that I might actually disagree with myself on in a month is that the Brewers aren't good. The reason I don't think the Brewers are good is because of things that maybe shouldn't matter, like what their lineup looks like. Their lineup is so disgusting that it immediately makes me hate them. But if you stripped away their lineup and you just told me, like, hey, this is their starting pitching and this is the back end of their bullpen, they are really good, like maybe even great. And I just neglect that because I have to watch those 9 hitters.
I wonder if Brewers feel the same way about the Reds. Like, how are these guys winning games with Ben Lively and Brandon Williams? He had an ERA of 7 at AAA, and Luke Weaver. Like, they're kind of both have like that one side of their team. Just how are you winning with it? But yeah, both teams have found a way.
Modern Warfare 2, we need to get off this stream. I know we probably needed it. We've gone way too long. But Modern Warfare 2 says, worst case scenario, the Cubs climb back in this race. Listen, I think the Cubs are sellers at the deadline. Like, a lot of these teams are sellers at the deadline. Like, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if Cody Bellinger.
But they could sell a couple pieces and maybe not be that worse off.
Yeah. I think they'll sell. I think they're going to trade Stroman, and I think they'll trade Bellinger. They'd be idiots not to trade Bellinger, dude. They'd be idiots. So we'll see how it goes. The trade deadline's going to be magic. Do we have final plans? Do you want to say what we're going to do at the trade deadline? Maybe we promote that every day.
Well, I think what we were probably going to do is not like plan anything because I don't want to plan like we'll do a show from 4 to 6 and then the Reds make a trade at 1:30 and
right.
So I think probably our plan will be we'll just go live if there's a trade. Obviously, if there's a trade in the morning, we're not going to go live off the benches on the air, but
right.
Those guys would cover it, and then we'd come in, I don't know, maybe at noon or whatever, but just kind of wait it out until there's a trade. If there hasn't been a trade, I think we'll probably maybe go live like 5 to 6. The deadline is 6 o'clock next Tuesday.
Eastern time.
Okay. But yeah, we'll do something. And the Reds played 8 against the Cubs that night.
Fair enough. All right, Nick. This show sucks when we lose.
We'll be back tomorrow.
We'll be back tomorrow. But I want to remind everybody, we do have a podcast. We do have a show in the morning. Off the bench. I think Thom might be off tomorrow, though, so it might be off the bench with, who knows, Paul Fritchner, Elliott, maybe Jacob. Maybe we throw him under the bus the last week he's here. That's nonetheless. If you want to watch that show, it's tomorrow at 10 a.m. to noon. As always, we have Chatterbox Reds. Thank you for being loyal listeners. Thank you for watching this dumb show. I mean that wholeheartedly. We need likes, folks. We need likes. We need a win tomorrow. You know we need a win. I know we need a win. My apologies for being so upset today. I'll come back better than ever tomorrow. I'll try to be a little more optimistic, a little more positive no matter what. But you know what? Can't say that I know. You can't say you don't get what you get with me, brother. Same goes with Nick. We're here each and every night. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow. Rain, win or loss. Go Reds.